But we always have fun with these people anyway, and McLean turned out to be a very delightful guy. Probably responsible for one of the most hideous things that could ever get stuck in your head. Although you like the
See,
song,
I
right?
love this song. You have a weird relationship with American Pie. I
It's a
love that
horrible
song.
song.
I love it.
Bye bye, Miss American Pie. Took my Chevy to the levee because the Vega engine died. Yeah, because you were just going to throw it right into the banks of the river. What are you talking about? Just let it go right off the cliff, like you were Matthew McConaughey trying to sell Lincoln Continentals. So McLean was pushing a Christmas album. That's why he came on the show. He's talked about Bye Bye Miss American Pie for 50 years. I mean, how much more can you milk that thing? Although,
It's done well.
wow.
Look the shit out of it. It's in movies. TV
Worst song that gets
shows.
stuck in your head: "Bye Bye Miss American Pie" or "You Light Up My Life," Debbie Boone,
No,
who we
the
also
Debbie Boone
spoke with
one.
about the very same thing.
Yeah, the Debbie Boone one is the one. American Pie I like, and I don't
Yeah.
mind it. The Debbie Boone one, and she agreed with you, which I appreciated.
It's annoying.
That's rough.
Yeah. You light up my life.
It's very soapy.
Ah,
It's
fuck.
like,
What are you talking about?
no one makes you feel that way in real life. Like,
Yeah,
what makes you
imagine
feel
you're
that
on your knees and you're singing to this woman that has stimulated you to a point that you never imagined you were capable of going to. You light up my life. No, you don't, man. Usually it's like you may as well just be. It isn't like you're putting water on a fire, man. I mean, what are you talking about? Just dousing the flame of what burns inside me and making me feel like it wasn't even worth living anymore. Huh? Why doesn't somebody write a song about that?
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right, very pleasant Monday morning to you. A degenerate Friday turned out okay, and here we are on a Monday morning, and it's a peel yourself off the mat Monday. We made it through the weekend. A lot of football over the weekend. We'll get into that. I was just looking at this. I moved the location, as you know, if you're a video viewer of the program and not just catching the audio of it. And these bobbleheads I had on my desk, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just an arbitrary, bizarre collection of bobbleheads. Didn't save all of the ones that I had. I have Roberto Luongo, Pablo Burry from the Panthers, Bob Gibson somehow. I'm looking at the Feet Pink Eye. That is a cherished bobblehead, and Mr. Mitt. And then this one, which is the strangest bobblehead creation ever, where if you can't see this, I'm holding up a bobblehead of Dan Marino. Now, what is odd about this bobblehead, Louie? I think we've discussed this before, but it just struck me again because
I'm like, didn't I have a Marino one, or maybe wasn't there a Marino one? Yeah. So you have a Marino one, okay? I'm like, why don't I remember a Marino bobblehead in my life?
all right, well, what is odd about this Marino bobblehead? The hair looks great.
He looks either Hispanic or African American, one of the
He's black in this thing. They made Marino a black guy. I mean, what kind of what part of China were they dealing with when they had this thing made? Does it even say where it was made? I don't know.
two.
What a disgrace! The great Dan Marino. They made. I mean, nothing wrong with being a black guy, but I mean, Marino was not a black guy. I'm sorry. Nobody could possibly believe that was a replica of Dan Marino or some kind of creation that was made to look like Dan Marino when they literally, what would they run out of white paint or something on these bobbleheads? Aren't they white by nature?
I think.
That's crazy, man. Looked like Marino was out there yesterday. I mean, Tua hits his first 42 passes in this game against the Jets. We're going to get into that. John Kajemi, the Pigskin Playbook will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he anticipated the technical difficulties we had in getting going late here. You almost had time to go out to Best Buy and buy a new computer before that thing restarted, Libby. All right, how was your weekend? Because we're heading into that period of time at the end of 2023. I can't believe this year is already over.
Yes.
We say that every year. It is true. I don't know if it's just proportionate to how old you are that creates this syndrome. But, I mean, time just flies by. Remember how long a year, took to transpire when you were like 8 years old?
Yep.
My God, it was forever. Now, I don't know if it's just because I hated school. I didn't really hate it until like junior high school. That's when I really started thinking, oh, man, this sucks. Why am I doing this? And you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it? I don't know. Does it do you any good, really, in the long run to go to 18 years of school? Get the fuck out of here. Not sure that works. Then you go to college, and then at the end of 4 years of college, or 5 or 6, or if you're in the transfer portal, 17 years in college. You got to go out and get a job, man. That's it. Usually end up doing nothing that is even remotely connected to your vision of what you thought your professional career was going to be all about, right? So I was waiting tables in restaurants for many years after I got out of school, a couple of years anyway, before I made the bold step and schlepped all the way out to Fontana from L.A., which was a 60-mile schlep. Imagine doing that. That's dedication, Lubie. At first, when I was still living in Hollywood, California, and schlepping 60 miles in the morning, I had to drive out there at like 4 in the morning to get there by 5 to be able to put this newspaper together, which I had no idea how to do the first week. Kind of like doing this show so far today. All right, so John's going to be with us tomorrow, and he was euphoric yesterday after this Dolphin win. That was a nice turnaround, Libby, and that's a mark of a good team, is it not? We've seen this now a couple of times. When the money is on the table, Libby. All right, so you blow a game. I don't know. Do we shrug that off now and say there was a lot of panic created by that loss last week to Tennessee, who subsequently went out and found a way to lose a ball game yesterday, the Tennessee Titans, and creating a lot of turmoil inside their organization as Houston. I think, were they down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter?
I thought they were down most of the game, and they didn't have Stroud. So
imagine it. The one, well, I mean, they're actually having a surprisingly good season.
Yes.
Under D'Amico Ryans, who I would think would be a candidate for Coach of the Year in his rookie season. It's a possibility. I tell you what, I mean, how are the Browns like with 9 wins? Did they have 9 wins or 8 wins, the Cleveland Browns? Is it 8? The Cleveland Browns, winners yesterday in one of the more bizarre finishes. The Hail Mary at the end of the game is one scary fucking proposition, Lubie, as the Browns behind Joe Flacco, who had thrown 3 picks in the game, but also looked good in spots and rallied the team to what appeared to be a surefire game-winning field goal late in the ball game, about 30 seconds to go in the game, somewhere around there. Might have been a minute or so. Anyway, surprisingly, Chicago, who was doing nothing, finds a way to maneuver the ball to about the 50-yard line, and then they had a chance maybe to make something happen. Screwed up a couple of plays, and they ended up in a desperate situation where with 5 seconds to go, they had no choice but to throw a Hail Mary. Oh, they made a really foolish play. That they had no timeouts left, and they throw a ball, and the receiver doesn't get out of bounds. So now the clock is rolling, and they end up in dire straits. 5 seconds to go. And they throw a Hail Mary. Did you see this play? I mean, you might have seen the highlight.
The stupid asshole dropped it. The ball lands in a guy's fucking chest on the ground with no one around him. And it
bobbled it.
A touchdown. Would have won the game.
Can you imagine losing like that? That's disgusting.
Oh, my God.
The Hail Mary should only count for 3 points.
I hate a Hail Mary.
It's such garbage, isn't it? I mean, please. It's one thing Jerry West flings one from half court and it goes in, and you're like, wow, that's Jerry West. But the Hail Mary, I mean, just blooping the ball up there, like everybody's been talking about all season long. They never call pass interference either way in the Hail Mary. There are 20 guys all banging into each other. Ball gets tipped. Now, the first thing any coach tells you from the time you're in any kind of organized football, if you're playing organized football, or anybody just in general, you're playing in the sandlot. What's the first thing they tell you about these kind of plays? Knock the ball down.
Knock it down, yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily work in the Hail Mary because you hit the ball and you intend to knock it down, but there are 10 guys, with a stranglehold around you. And in this case, and that's the move, right? You line up everybody in a spot in the end zone, but make sure one guy pops out and is ahead of where the pass is being thrown.
Yep.
So that when the bat comes, and it landed right in this guy's chest. It really did. Now, should you always make that catch? I don't know. I mean, it's awkward. So
it was just crazy that it landed right in his chest and he was laying there. It's like, oh shit, that's an easy catch, actually.
Yeah, the timing of it, I mean, is not always conducive to making a catch, but he had it. I mean, he had it. We had it.
He had the ball.
What a reversal that would have been, huh? And that was in Cleveland.
And Cleveland's 9-5, by the way. They've had Joe Flacco playing quarterback the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
They're 9-5.
This Stefanski could be the coach of the year. How is he doing that? I mean, they've been doing it primarily without Deshaun Watson for a good portion of the season. And, doing it with Joe Flacco, he was out of football, for God's sake.
And the last time we remember him in football was with the Jets, where he was a friggin' abomination. I don't understand what's happening there at all.
How are they winning? I mean, it's not like the Bears are world beaters, but the Bears were, not feeling awful about themselves because they think maybe Justin Fields will justify their lofty opinion of him when they took him. What? It was a first round selection. How high was this guy taken, Justin Fields?
Top 12 or 13, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
And they put a lot of faith in him. Hasn't necessarily been justified yet, but yesterday he nearly rounded him back, the Chicago Bears. But Cleveland somehow, I mean, sitting there at 9-5. All right, we're going to get into this Dolphin game too, because that was big. What happened yesterday? Question marks, the Pandora's box of questions, as we were talking about all last week after losing to Tennessee. Horrific, just gut wrenching loss where you literally just cough up the lead in the ball game, and with less than 4 minutes to go, or inside of 5 minutes to go anyway, you're leading by 2 touchdowns, and you can't hold the lead, and you ultimately lose the ball game. That was crazy. And you still have a shot at the end to come back and get a game-winning field goal, and you screw that up also. And now you have injuries. Tyreek Hill, what were some of the narratives coming out of that game? That without Tyreek Hill on the field,
What do you mean? They didn't have
the Dolphin offense sucks.
They were missing, I think, 9 starters.
A lot of guys. I tell you who they did have, though, is on defense. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Ramsey.
Finally. Oh, my God.
I mean, you never heard from Garrett Wilson in this game. Of course, you had Zach Wilson and then Trevor Siemian both running for their lives.
Yep.
As the defense really dominated the ball game. And then Jalen Waddle, didn't you think this going in? It was nice to see, actually, because I'm a big Jalen Waddle fan. I love the way these two guys complemented each other, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle for the Dolphins. And your thought, I mean, mine was that Waddle probably could do almost all of the things that Tyreek Hill does.
Almost. I mean, he's not as elusive, he's not as fast, but as you saw yesterday, he definitely can get the job done.
Yeah.
Legit.
It was great. I mean, and the Jets were horrific in this game. Coughed it up right away, and the Dolphins took advantage. Raheem Mostert, now with a Dolphin record. What does he have? 20 touchdowns on the season. Unbelievable.
And that's with McDaniel fucking around the goal line. He probably could have 25.
Yeah. Right. If he was Pete Johnson, he'd have 40 touchdowns in this offense.
Exactly.
So that was nice to see for the agent to the stars. Brett Tesser, a good friend of the program here, is it's funny too. I mean, would you label? It's a fair label, but would you label Raheem Mostert as a journeyman? I heard that label attached to him. A journeyman. Is he still of journeyman status as a National Football League running back?
Oh no! I mean, is he second in the league? I was just about to look, but Tesler's.
I think he's third in the league in rushing.
Yeah, I mean that's not and it's been a few years. He set a rushing record for a conference title game.
And he was good with San Fran. He didn't get the ball enough until the playoffs, and then he really rose to the occasion. He showed how tough he can be. He was good last year. No, I mean the guy's been good as a Miami Dolphin, no question.
Yeah,
since he came here,
he ain't a journeyman anymore. he's a legit running back, and him with A-Chain, it feels like it opens things up even more. Like I think most
like Sony Michel would be a journeyman at this point.
At this point, yeah, yes, Sony Michel's 100%.
Like you don't know whose roster he's on, if he's even in the league anymore. But he pops up somewhere, and all of a sudden he'll have 65 yards on 11 carries.
Raheem Mostert is literally, and he's only third in the league because Cook has 2 more yards than him. So I presume he'll end up with more yards than James Cook. So he's going to finish probably top 2 in the league in rushing, which is utterly ridiculous for a guy that had the story he had.
And think about the guys who carried the rock for the Dolphins, Lubie.
Yep.
Easily, I mean, whose record did he break as a running back? He broke the record for both running backs and overall touchdowns, but by a Dolphin player.
Yeah, so what would that be? Like Ricky? I guess Ricky Williams Ricky Williams was fucking great.
You would think Zonk, right? Something like that. Where you're plowing the ball in from the 1 yard line a lot.
Maybe
Zonk. I don't know. I don't know who held the record. Tony Nathan. No, he didn't score that.
Ricky Williams. I mean, Ricky Williams was the entire offense for 3 years. So I presume Ricky Williams has every freaking record.
Well, it sets you up pretty well. I mean, very interesting the way things are shaking out. Dallas is going to be coming off a loss next week when they come to Hard Rock Stadium to take on the Dolphins. The Dolphins, after coughing that game up, and it is a shame. I mean, they would be sitting there at 11-3 in a dead heat with the Baltimore Ravens, who they play in 2 weeks. that game will be on the road. I would have to say, no, you never know what to think. Lamar Jackson. Well, I mean, if you were Chris Collinsworth last night, where you're listening to the commentary on the Ravens game,
Yeah, so Ricky
did he
Williams,
want to give like Lamar Jackson just a blowjob after the game?
yes,
I
he
mean,
likes Lamar Jackson.
oh my God! I mean, the
Ricky
guy's
Williams
good.
one year had almost 1,900 yards rushing, which most people won't do,
No,
and had 16 touchdowns in 1 year. So
oh, he had the record, Ricky Williams. Okay,
yeah.
and then after that, he didn't even literally have a leg to stand on. As Dave Wannstedt brutalized this guy. I mean, should Wannstedt be brought up on charges? He ran Ricky Williams 500 times that season, 1,900 yards. The dreadlock demon, as our friend Howard David dubbed him. And wow, it was sensational to watch, but it was almost cruel and unusual where he had that many carries. So yeah, so that's the record that Raheem Mostert. It kind of offended me for some reason, since we know the guy a little bit through Brett Tesler, and he was gracious enough to come on our show after he set that NFL championship game record with 200 and change, and it was done in spectacular fashion too. This cat runs hard.
Yep.
Runs hard. It's a pleasure to watch. And speaking of which, Lubie, it's funny. I'm watching a little bit. Unfortunately, the only other game, and it was on while the Dolphin game was on. Yet the Dolphin game was already determined easily by halftime. You didn't see the Jets staging any kind of a rally in that game. So I'm tuned into Kansas City because there was a small betting interest in that game in my personal bookmaking venture, and I was only getting 8 points with the Patriots. 8 with the Patriots, which didn't seem like it would be enough, except, and this is absolutely the truth, statistically borne out, we've been saying it all season, Louie, the explosivity, or as you like to say, the explosiveness of the Kansas City Chiefs is not there this year, not even close.
No, they're average. They really have become an average fucking team. That's what's annoying. That was what was annoying. Look, the Ravens weren't scary last night. Like the Ravens.
No, I mean, they tried their best to kind of give this thing away. But Jacksonville did a better job of giving it away. What was that fumble with Trevor Lawrence? I mean, the ball just pops out of his hand out of nowhere. And then they made so many mistakes.
They missed 2 field goals, and they were nice, easy field goals. Before half, did you see before half? They jumped to the 5. He gets to the line with 15 seconds. All he has to do is spike it.
Right.
Trying to run a play.
They run a play.
Fine.
Oh, that was the one where the guy didn't get out.
Throw it to the end zone. And then that's fine. It'd be 12 seconds left, second down. He throws it to the inbounds at the 5. It's like, what? And it was a game at that point. Like,
yes,
they literally gave away at least 9 points right there. And if they get a touchdown, that's what 6. But that's 20. That's 13 points they gave away right there. Like, what are you doing? Like,
had every opportunity to at least be representative in that game. Bizarre turnovers by the Jacksonville Jaguars last night. So the Ravens, but Lamar Jackson was brilliant in the ballgame. There's no doubt.
Well. He played really well. He's the MVP. To me, it should be between him and Tua right now, but no one wants to give Tua credit.
Well, I mean, you have to factor in that Lamar Jackson is also running the ball to the tune of about 650 yards on the season.
Yeah.
And in a year where supposedly they were de-emphasizing that aspect of things, and the way he keeps these plays alive, plus that sidearm throwing motion of his, it looks like he's throwing darts, doesn't it? Not darts in the sense of like an Aaron Rodgers. Wow, the guy's throwing darts. It literally looks like he's playing darts, like he should be in that dart tournament we were talking about on the Tony Bruno show that's going on over in England right now. A strange throwing motion for a quarterback that was very effective most of the ball game last night. So that'll be interesting as the Dolphins have that game on the horizon. Now you're feeling much more comfortable about this Dallas game, I would imagine, Mike Lubie.
Yesterday, God damn it! Like, it's really annoying because if things went the way they were supposed to, the Dolphins should have beaten the Titans, and the Bills should have fucking lost to the Chiefs or the Cowboys, and the Dolphins would have literally clinched the division. Instead, the Bills now are finding their way.
Oh, they looked great yesterday,
and the Cowboys, I root against the Cowboys since they did what they did to Jimmy Johnson. I despise the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jones.
I never liked him. I couldn't stand him.
I like Jimmy Johnson. So when the Dolphins weren't good, I would root for the Cowboys.
They were entertaining. Yeah, with Jimmy. And they were entertaining to watch then, too.
And Jerry wasn't a scumbag.
And the whole Barry Switzer thing was ugliness.
Jerry did that. I rooted against them. But once in a while, you'll need them. So you root them on, and they let you down every fucking time. Like, what the hell is that? God damn it.
Well, I know we were talking just a week ago. Being the media pundits that are on, a zillion of them, And I don't know, ESPN especially was guilty of this, where they were doing their best to make Dak Prescott out to be the MVP of the league. And then you see a game like yesterday's, and you're like, "My God, it couldn't be a better time." Hey, it couldn't be a better time to bring this gentleman on the program, as
Yes.
we always enjoy. Wow, look how handsome this guy is! Unbelievable.
Hair working. I haven't seen hair full Chris Perkins ever. He looks good.
Yeah, almost unrecognizable. No, you were capable. This isn't like a Don King Jr. Carl King was his son.
One thing.
Had the best black hair piece I've ever seen. I didn't know. I could not believe. And Lubie and I play this game often, piece or no piece. Try to figure out if Bill Self has a hairpiece on. What would you say, Bill Self, the Kansas coach? Hairpiece, Chris? Chris
Yeah,
Perkins,
it looks like it, right?
It looks like a piece.
He's been around for a minute.
I stood behind him and I researched it. I was this close to him, and you could see the back of the head coming off, like clear.
Yeah.
It was not attached to his head at all.
But you were capable all along of having this perfectly,
It's full. What? Like
full head of hair. I mean,
are you fucking kidding me?
is this a Rogaine thing? What the hell happened there, Chris? Why would you go with the shaved head look all those years?
Purpose?
Yeah, you know what it was. So back when I started shaving my head back in '96, in Arlington, right outside. So there weren't a whole lot of black barbershops there, and so you would have to go and you would have to sit there and wait like 2 hours, and it was a great. It's a great,
Yeah.
The barbershop is great, but I don't want to spend 4 hours there, every 2 weeks. And I used to wear my hair really short anyway. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shave it and save myself the 4 hours a month. I did, and I liked it. And so that 28 years later, I decided I'm going to grow it back. So here we are.
Holy Yul Brynner, man. I mean, I thought maybe you were going to tell us you lost a bet. And that there was statute of limitations on being bald with the ball. Anyway, you look great, and the Dolphins look great yesterday. So let's get and of course Chris with the Sun Sentinel, and he is the Dolphin columnist.
Yes.
Which is far more distinguished than being a beat writer or any other schlep that's covering the team. And so you were the preeminent guy when it comes to this stuff. A lot of questions. I mean, was it fair to open up this, as we were calling it, a Pandora's box of question marks after the loss to Tennessee? And were many of those questions satisfactorily answered in favor of the Dolphins being a real contender in yesterday's game against the Jets? Or did we just watch them against a really putrid team look better than they are?
Look, yes, it was fair to open that Pandora's box, and yes, those questions were answered. Look, the Dolphins blow a 14-point lead in the last 3 minutes to Tennessee, right? That was like historic stuff. We hadn't seen that in like 7 or 8 years in the NFL. And so, so that opens a lot of questions. That just opens the door for, can this team hold a lead? Are they for real? Like, this is Will Levis, for goodness sakes, right?
Yes.
I mean, this isn't like Joe Montana is coming back on you or something like that. I got to show my age, Defo. I can't say Mahomes.
Montana's not old enough,
right?
Yeah, no, but I mean, you could have gone with Sid Luckman, like I would have done.
Y.A. Tittle was, I figured.
Y.A. was one of my favorites. I have a classic picture somewhere of Y.A. Tittle on his knees after they lost to the Bears in the NFL championship game at the time, and he had like a thing of blood, like it was Rudy Giuliani schwitzing with the hair dye, but he had like blood trickling. This was a picture by a guy named Robert Rieger, who was a great artist, and the blood's trickling down his cheek, and it really defined what the NFL was all about at the time. I mean, just the depressing viewpoint of this guy crumpled up like that with the blood. You covered a lot of boxing. I mean, it was similar to seeing some guy just in the corner, slumped there on a stool, in the 12th round, unable to come out and answer the bell. This thing yesterday, though, I mean, it was a pleasure to watch if you were a Dolphin fan. Did you see any guys in Al Toon jerseys leaving in the third quarter of that ball game? And where does it leave us? I mean, you have Dallas coming in off that really bad performance yesterday against the Buffalo Bills. They got annihilated yesterday. So just as we were, stoking the fires of how great Dallas is, at least in the media, and I was talking, I guess you might have caught that when you were waiting to come on. Just a week ago, Dak Prescott's everybody's MVP. So I mean, interesting the way that this whole thing is shaken out. You blow the game against Tennessee, that hurts you. And now you have this 3-game stretch everybody's been waiting for all year long to prove whether or not you can validate all of the hope that people had for you early in the season.
Yeah, Defo, you know what? I think really we're in the same place with the Dolphins that we were around the bye week from this standpoint. Now, I will say this before I go into that. The Dolphins answered a lot of questions yesterday when you consider Tyreek Hill is out.
Yeah.
3/4 of your starting secondary is out, right? Xavier Howard, Deshaun Elliott, and Javon Holland. You're missing so much of the offensive line. Rob Hunt missed the start yesterday. So you're able to figure everything out. And look, let me give some credit to the two Jalen's, right? Jalen Ramsey, my goodness, Garrett Wilson, like, where were you yesterday? Jalen Ramsey put on a coverage clinic. Yeah. And then Jalen Waddle comes through when Tyreek is out. When Raheem Mostert doesn't have a great day, and there's Waddle with that 60-yarder running that excellent route, just twisting DJ Reed around. So I think DJ Reed might have fallen down it was such a great route. And so those questions were answered for the Dolphins. You know, what about your depth? What about playing without Tyreek? What about getting back to being a dominant home team? All those questions were answered. Here's what I like about going into these final three is that, you know, all of these teams are wonderfully flawed, right? The Dolphins, you want to see them consistently beat good teams. It's the same thing with Dallas, especially on the road, as we saw yesterday. Baltimore can't hold a lead, even at home, in the fourth quarter. We saw that a couple of weeks ago. They ended up winning in overtime, I think, against the Chargers maybe. And then Buffalo, you've got Josh Allen, who keeps both teams in the game at the same time. So, you know, all of these teams are so wonderfully flawed. And it's kind of what we thought about all of these teams at midseason, right? We saw kind of, you know, these flaws. I mean, Buffalo is so boneheaded, right? They lose that game to the Jets, the opener on the punt return. They lose to Denver with 12 men on the field on the field goal attempt. And I think they had another boneheaded loss also. Can they get out of their own way? So I love where the NFL is right now, right? Kansas City can't score enough. San Francisco had that 3-game losing streak. Philly is just getting by against a lot of good teams and got smashed by Dallas. Everybody is so wonderfully flawed. This is going to be one of the best endings of the regular season and playoffs, I think, that we've seen in a while.
Well, that's the thing is there's so many. It's what Roselle wanted. It's parity, and that's why you saw like 15, 7-6 teams yesterday.
Yep. Correct.
The Browns are friggin' 9-5, and Joe Flacco. We watched him last year. The Dolphins were stepping on his grave last year. And like they're like vintage Joe Flacco. I'm like, vintage Joe Flacco. He's 64. I'm like, what do you mean vintage Joe Flacco? Vintage Joe Flacco should be working at the car lot. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, and that's why that loss annoyed me, because I'm like, it's not fine the Dolphins winning a play. It's like the league's wide open for you guys. This year is wide open. You went all in the perfect freaking year. It was very Rams-like, where like the league opened wide open. There's no Patriots. The Bills can't get out of their own way. The Chiefs can't freaking score. Mahomes is looking like a raving lunatic, bitching about penalties that were penalties. Like the Ravens.
Belichick's finished.
It's just the Steel, like all the. It's just it's just wide open. And it's like, oh my God. So to see them do that, the thing to me that was most impressive was Bradley Chubb was starting to get into fucking bust territory, to be brutally honest. I mean, you gave up a lot of picks, you're spending him a lot of money, and he was a goddamn one-man wreck. I guess it was like, all right, you're going to have 4 backups in? This is why they pay me. And he was fantastic yesterday. And both sides of the ball were suffocating. Whether it was offense or defense, they didn't give the Jets a chance to get in the game. And that's what I wanted to see versus the Titans. And it was almost like, okay, we have to learn from these games, and it looked like they did.
Yeah, I agree, Lubie. And you know, again, every team this year, as I recall, has had that Tennessee moment or that, you know, that stretch of games. And, you know, everybody is so equal this year that, nobody is without a major flaw. And I love that. And look, let's with the defense, let's not ignore Brandon Jones also, right? With the 2 interceptions, you mentioned Chubb, but you know, Brandon Jones, other guys, Elijah Campbell had a nice pass breakup, and Jingle had a nice pass breakup. So, you know, I like the depth that this team has built. And they did a good job, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, with the depth last year. The offensive line came through last year. Guys like Greg Little and Brandon Shell, they didn't do great jobs. They weren't Pro Bowl type players, but we're seeing that again this year, right? With Robert Jones and Lester Cotton. Again, none of these guys are going to the Pro Bowl, but they're doing just enough. With this wave of injuries, they're doing just enough. Liam Eichenberg, I mean, they've done a good job. This is a well-built team.
Chris Perkins, guest with us here. Of course, the columnist for the South Florida Sun Sentinel on the Miami Dolphins. All right, so you're optimistic. That's good because, wow, we had to stave off and really trying to resign ourselves to staying away from this bizarre pessimism that suddenly was hovering over Hard Rock Stadium with regard to the Miami Dolphins. And then you would have thought decimated by injuries. By the way, I mean, Tyreek Hill, I would imagine that this guy would never be accused of jaking it the way that he's gone out and performed for the Miami Dolphins. But, I mean, if he was able to do that on a bum ankle that wouldn't allow him to play in a game, I was watching him. They had many clips of him warming up. And you would have thought it was Jerry Rice making cuts. It was unbelievable. And then, they threw in a towel after they showed you this guy, running like there was no tomorrow, like he was Carl Lewis at the Olympic Games. And he ended up not playing. So it was good to see. I know I was always a fan of Jalen Waddle, and I didn't think there would be this gigantic drop-off if Tyreek Hill went out of the lineup and they had to just focus in a little bit more on Waddle. The question was, what would the next guy up, so to speak, be representative enough to create a threat where they weren't just triple teaming Waddle the entire time. But no, it was very convincing to see them do this, even against the hapless Jets. The other weird thing, as you were talking about all these playoff possibilities and the flawed teams, it's very Shakespearean. Everybody has their tragic flaws. Right. Is that finally eliminated the Jets' playoff possibilities? I mean, the Jets are like an horrendous team. Somehow they're in there at 5-8. And they were still alive with the possibility dangling it out there that Aaron Rodgers was going to come off the injured list and come back and play maybe in the next week or so.
Let me tell you something, man. I talked to 2 Jets reporters yesterday. I feel so bad for them because their job the last 3 months has been watching the Pat McAfee show. Because that's where Aaron Rodgers talks, and that's where Aaron Rodgers keeps this stupid dream alive of I'm going to come back this season, and nobody in the organization can say, Aaron, sit down and shut the F up, right? I mean, he runs the organization. They got him the offensive coordinator. They got him the receivers. This dude is running the organization, and if he comes back and plays behind that offensive line that we saw yesterday, he's going to get out. He's going to be put out for next season. Then they're going to have Zach Wilson come back again. Yes. And they're going to be pissed off at Zach Wilson over stuff that's not even his fault. Aaron Rodgers, sit down, shut up. And if for no other reason, give my reporting brethren some Tuesdays off or whatever day it is that he's on Pat McAfee. I feel so bad for those guys. You're sitting there and whatever Aaron says, you have to write it up going, this is a load of crap. This dude is crazy, but hey, the things we do for money, right?
Well, it's right up there, that whole story and trying to follow it, which is one reason I was very happy never to be a beat writer and to get out of the newspaper business where you actually had to cover these things and couldn't just react to finding out the news yourself. But remember Ed Werder and Rachel Nichols, they were underneath the truck that Brett Favre was driving off his farm in whatever state he's in, during the off season, waiting for him to come out to his car. So they could ask him if he was going to come out of retirement or not, or if he was retiring. I forget what it was. He was either coming back or going to retire. And they had to follow this forever. And then ultimately he came back anyway. And it was like, what a waste of time that was. Yeah. Sort of, who was the guy that, and he passed away, unfortunately. He was a very popular guy that was following Barry Bonds around during his home run chase.
Pedro Gomez.
ESPN. Yeah. How futile, right? You got a guy who won't even talk to you.
You remember when Peyton Manning came here in 2010 or whatever, and there's helicopters, following him, and is Peyton going to come to the Dolphins with that neck injury? Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. And they were following Wayne's plane, as he was visiting Pete Carroll, who was with some girl in Tahiti in a grass skirt. on the beach there, and it was pretty insane, to see what happened this year with the Jets and that whole Aaron Rodgers saga.
Yeah.
But I guess that comes to an end. It's interesting though, like you said, Rodgers has played 3 snaps as a Jet and completely is in control of everything that they do. If he asked them to dig up Fuzzy Thurston for protection, they'd probably have like some excavation crew out there trying to exhume the body, out of whatever Green Bay cemetery this guy is in. All right, so a lot of interesting stuff. As Lubie alluded to, the Chiefs they don't look like as much. Is it true that women weaken legs? Is Travis Kelce?
Yeah, he's been
He's doing some very uncharacteristic things, including, according to the gossip columnists in the New York Post and other sources, maybe dropping a ring on Taylor Swift, who.
Oh, jeez.
I do enjoy this, though. A lot of people knock it, because they got a shot of Taylor Swift after every play that either involves Kelce or is a Kansas City Chiefs positive play. And I thought I saw her mouth the words "no fucking flag" on that one. You didn't get to see this, but and I'm like, wow, this woman's just become like a Jet fan overnight.
She's like cursing.
Well,
it's just a sweetheart everybody loves, and she's screaming at the officials, "No fucking flag!" from some luxury suite. It was great.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know what? Here's the good thing that about that relationship to me is that I'm not a Kansas City fan. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. So I can control my intake of that. So I'm not watching Chiefs games and seeing every shot of her. That'll change in the playoffs, and I'm sure I'll get sick of it at that time. But so far, it's just been what I see on ESPN or NFL Network or what I choose to read or click on. So it's been very, very manageable. But I know that's going to change in the playoffs. For however long Kansas City lasts, it's going to be the Taylor Swift NFL playoffs, I think.
Does she become embittered, like Giselle did, where she's attacking people in the elevator on the way down from the luxury suites, saying, "Don't talk about that about my Tommy."
Right.
Can you see a complete personality turnaround with Taylor Swift? I don't know, but I'm kind of digging the fact that she's actually like a down-home fan, or seems to be. Maybe. Exaggerated to some show business levels, but if that's really her, which supposedly it is, then she's great, man. She's worthy of being in section 444 row triple Z and and screaming with everybody there. So nice to see her actually enjoying the game of football. All right, Brandon Staley gets canned. That probably came as no surprise. I don't know. Did you catch the Thursday night game? We were saying he looked very much like Sean Penn in Dead Man Walking, when they went to shots on the sideline of him, and you were waiting for like Susan Sarandon to come in and help spare his soul. No surprise there, but the rumors immediately started up. L.A., somewhat attractive job. They have talent there and a quarterback.
Yeah, you got Justin Herbert. That's the biggest thing that's attractive about that job. So you wonder what's going to be the approach. And that's the most attractive job, right? Carolina, you're working for that crazy owner, David Tepper, who's been through like 12 coaches in the last 2 years, right? So you don't want to work for him. You want to go to where there's the quarterback. And so Justin Herbert is out there. So you wonder, if you're a defensive coach, do you have a shot at that job? If you're Eric Bieniemy, do you have a shot at that job, or is somebody like John Gruden going to come back from the dead?
John Gruden, wow.
But I wonder if they're going to go for the proven guy, or kind of the quarterback whisperer, like the Dolphins thought they had with Philbin and Adam Gase, or what are you going to go for? Because you've already wasted some valuable years of Justin Herbert's career. So from that standpoint, I wonder, who's in it and who's not in it in the running for that head coaching job.
I would imagine watching Tua blossom under Mike McDaniel that Brian Flores' name won't be mentioned except in various litigation and lawsuits. No, I was thinking Belichick. If he was going to go somewhere, and I don't know. Lubie, did you say you were not buying the whole Belichick story, or are you all in on the idea that he's gone?
We talked to someone last week that felt it was not real. I think that's a weird way. It's real. Like there's no reason for them to go forward. It makes zero sense. Like it's not even about the legacy thing. I look, it's like Michael Jordan's still considered the best player ever, even though he looked average in a Wizards uniform. Like he could stay another year or two with New England and it won't hurt his legacy. But to me, why would he stay there? They're clearly in a rebuild. Why would he want to be a part of that? So no,
Bailey Zappi, that's why.
Yeah. He's done there. Both sides are ready for him to move on. I'm just curious if he still wants to keep doing it somewhere else.
What do you think?
You know what?
Does he go to the Chargers?
Yeah. Well, I would say this. Here's the thing. Will Belichick go somewhere where he's not the GM? Because Bill Belichick, the GM, is the problem, right? We can all agree with that. Bill Belichick, the coach, is okay. Bill Belichick, the GM, will ruin your franchise.
Hey,
so would he go to the Chargers? Would the Chargers let him shop for the groceries when they've got Justin Herbert there? Yeah, so and then I could see Belichick wanting to stay to get the Shula record in a place where if he's not fired this year, he'll probably never be fired, right? If you're Robert Kraft, this is the perfect time. So
this is it.
I don't know what Belichick will do, but I think those are kind of the some of the things you have to consider. I mean, if I'm the Chargers, there's no way Bill Belichick, the GM, is coming to my organization. But if you're the, I feel the same thing. If you're the Patriots, right? Like we've got to get Bill Belichick, the GM, out. So does Bill Belichick, the GM, still want to exist in the NFL? I think that's a big key to what he's going to do and where he's going to go and whether he gets fired or all that.
Does he ever threaten to expose the pictures he has of Bob Kraft at one of those Asian spas?
That's right.
I mean, imagine that was not a solo incident. I would think the one time he goes into one of these places, he gets nailed by the cops who happen to be staking it out for other nefarious reasons.
Right.
And
Orchids of Asia, as I recall.
Yes. Yeah. Well, have you been there? A couple of times I was there. I found it a very pleasant experience.
I just recall. That's all.
You were in there getting some fried rice next door and just happened to pop in. I mean, imagine the feeling these cops had. They're staking it out for very, very heinous reasons,
right?
With the sex trafficking implications or whatever. I guess I don't know though. Whatever happened with that aspect of the case, right. and they're sitting there going, "Isn't that the guy that owns the Patriots? Don't you have a game today?" And his plane's all gassed up at the Palm Beach airport, and you're thinking, "My God, this guy really, with all of that money, wouldn't you go a little more high end?" I mean, please, Mark Davis isn't settling for this kind of.
Defo, this is how some people keep their money, right? I mean, we would have blown it all. This is how some people keep their money.
Exactly. Whatever. I mean, imagine when he bought the Patriots for back in the day, Bob Kraft. Who was the guy who had the Lady Bic shaver or whatever?
Victor Kayam.
Victor Kayam, yeah.
I liked it. I liked the company so much. I liked the razor so much. I bought the company or whatever it was.
Yeah, and one day I shot a commercial with that guy. I mean, I actually wasn't a bad guy.
Wow.
But I mean, he sold. Would you say that was a premature evaluation when he sold the Patriots to Bob Kraft for whatever pittance? I don't know how badly he needed the money, and nobody was using the lady chic anymore. But all right, so you don't see Belichick going to the Chargers, which that would be.
Yeah.
It would seem to me if he went anywhere, that would be a perfect spot. But he may not be the guy. I mean, with quarterbacks, look at Mac Jones. It's not like he evolved.
Yeah.
Brady might have been just one of those unusual freak talents that.
Right. Well, 6th round pick. They can't really take credit for spotting Brady. They can take credit for developing
for playing him. I mean, for putting him in there over Bledsoe at the time that they did. That was when Belichick was razor sharp, though, and was very good at letting go of players that still had maybe 2-3 years shelf life.
Yep.
But getting optimum value back for them, and using. I mean, he wasn't always so inept at the draft because he would always come up with these shrewd guys that you're like, oh, wow. But it caught up with him, I guess. Where you can't always be brilliant at. Even Jimmy Johnson. Yep. Had his moments where who was the running back that he took that year instead of Randy Moss?
John Avery.
John Avery. John Avery. Remember that?
That's it.
Yeah, he traded down, and you're thinking, wow, Jimmy, what a genius there. Then he gets this stiff and leaves Randy Moss on the table. Unbelievable. All right, Chris, always a pleasure. So you're optimistic about the Finns. You think they're going to do well in this 3-game stretch? What are you thinking? 2 out of 3?
I'm thinking. I'm actually thinking
sweep?
1 out of 3. I wrote last week.
Oh, 1 out of 3.
Yeah, I wrote last week that I picked the Dolphins to finish 10-7. Now I'm thinking 11-6 is the number. So going into the last 4, I say that they beat the Jets, they lose to Dallas, they lose to Baltimore, they beat Buffalo, and they win the AFC East. So I'm still going to stick to that. I know what I just saw from Dallas, but that didn't surprise me. That's who Dallas is. So I'm still going to stick to the 11-6. We'll see. Everybody should be back this week. I don't know about Deshaun Elliott, but Javon Holland, hopefully Rob Hunt, hopefully Xavier Howard, hopefully Tyreek Hill, the most important one, I think. So we should get a fairly full complement of players against Dallas. They're at home. We'll see.
I'm not exactly Adam Schefter, but I would say, based on what we saw in the warm-ups, Tyreek Hill will be a go.
Yes,
next week against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are very much, inferior on the road in terms of their productivity. Their point differential from home and away is huge, and they're only 3-4 on the road this year. So I think they're scoring like 10, 15 points a game less when they're on the road, including last night's embarrassment against the Buffalo Bills. Chris, always a pleasure. You look great, by the way. Fantastic. And great performance, as always, here. Well, we love the shot of the pool in the background. It always makes you think, hey, it's good to be in Florida even after the last 3-4 days. Thanks so much for being with us. Always a pleasure, my friend.
You're the best, Perkins. Thanks.
All right, Chris Perkins, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so he's optimistic, but he only sees like a 1 and 2 in these last 3 games.
With what he said, which I give him credit for, but I mean, things change. Going into the game yesterday, thought they would lose the last 4.
Yes,
and be 9-8. So things change. They played that game. I now think, and then the Cowboys also played their game. And again, the Cowboys at home are good. The Cowboys won't be at home in this game. The Cowboys will be in Miami, where the Dolphins are good. So it actually makes this game, and now they're getting everyone back. They actually got some rest. It feels like the Dolphins should win this game, and if they do, the outlook on the season is totally different. I mean, if they can find a way to get to 12-5, that you can be a 2 or a 3 seed. The way that the rest of the conference, the way the Chiefs and the Jags are screwing around, you can get to 12-5. You may be able to get to that number 2 spot, and that you don't get a bye, but you'll have 2 home games, which they've never had in my lifetime.
Well, I mean, also out there would be beating Baltimore on the road.
Yeah, that one
after handling Dallas, and then you're in a position where you can win the conference.
Yeah, you'd be the one.
A bye week. Wow.
Jesus.
That would be unbelievable. All right, well, we have to run. Thanks for joining us. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. Yeah. And tomorrow we'll have John Conjemi, the Pigskin Playbook, and that's brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, and that's right there in the Florida Keys, the Overseas Highway. Beautiful spot, and I think the renovations are done, so might be time to get down there, Lubie, and soak up what's supposed to be a glorious week of weather after that Armageddon that we had. East Coast north of here getting socked. Did you see some of the horrendous shots of I guess it was in the Carolinas, and it's working its way up the coast here. I don't know that we got the full brunt of any of that. When it was windy for a couple of days and kind of dreary outside.
It rained all day, but it was never as bad as it could have been. So that was.
No, I don't think so. You think they made the right move, canceling the boat parade?
I don't know. I know it was windy and rainy. So especially Saturday.
It wouldn't have been the most pleasant time to be out there. All right. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.